It didn't take long for the George Pickens storylines to resurface. 3 games into his Cowboys tenure, the ex-Steelers wideout produced a moment that will be replayed, debated, and used as fodder for months. A fourth-quarter drop that turned into an interception, followed by an emotional sideline meltdown in which Pickens slammed his helmet against the turf more than once. The clip went viral almost instantly. Fans called it unprofessional, opponents smiled, and pundits sharpened their pencils on "told you so" columns. Let's be honest about the facts. Pickens did make an athletic one-handed touchdown earlier in the game and finished with a stat line that isn't terrible on paper. 5 catches for 68 yards and a score. But the late miscue was costly and highly visible. Television audiences saw the sequence unfold in real time, and the visual of a player smashing his own equipment is a dramatic shorthand that creates more meaning than the box score alone. The NFL highlight packages and social feeds don't care about nuance. They care about moments, and this one will now be a frame used to define Pickens' early Cowboys chapter. NFL.com context matters here, and there are 2 important contexts to remember. First, Pickens arrives in Dallas with a reputation. In Pittsburgh, he flashed elite athletic upside, highlight catches, contested grabs, jaw-dropping plays. But those flashes came alongside question marks about locker room fit and emotional volatility. Teams don't trade first-round picks lightly, and the Steelers' decision not to give him an extension suggested they had reservations beyond pure talent. Second, the Cowboys are a spotlight franchise with little patience for distractions. When you wear that star on your helmet, your mistakes aren't private, they're national theater. The combination of Pickens' pedigree and his past narrative created a perfect storm for reaction when this moment happened. Still curtain now about the behavior itself. There's a difference between showing emotion and sabotaging your cause. Football is a violent, emotional sport. Passion fuels great plays, and locker rooms thrive on intensity. But there's also a line between channeling emotion into performance and letting it become performative self-punishment or a public display of instability. Slamming a helmet on the sideline after a game-turning error doesn't help the team. It crystallizes the mistake and draws attention away from adjustments, coaching, or tactical fixes. Worse, it can sap a room's composure at a moment when the message needs to be clear and forward-looking. Teammates may try to console him, which they did, but the narrative damage is done in a medium that remembers visuals far longer than it remembers apologies. Yahoo Thetao. What does this mean for the Cowboys' short and medium term? Practically not much, at least not immediately. Coaches value production and scheme fit, and Pickens can win one-on-one matchups, stretch defenses, and create splash plays. For a team dealing with injuries, and with CeeDee Lamb's status still a storyline, Pickens' ability to be a top target matters. The danger comes in 2 places: locker room chemistry and contract economics. If Pickens continues to be a heat-seeking missile of emotion at odds with teammates or the playbook, the Cowboys could find themselves negotiating not just talent valuation, but temperament risk. And when the extension talk comes, as it inevitably will if he keeps producing, the organization will weigh character as heavily as catch radius. Steelers. Now, from Pickens' perspective, the remedy is obvious and difficult. Translate that intensity into consistent on-field focus, own the mistake publicly and privately, and learn to manage the public optics. Great players rebound from errors. Elite professionals do it with humility and process. There's a blueprint for this kind of turnaround. Players who looked volatile early in their careers and matured into dependable, even beloved teammates. Pickens has the athletic tools to command targets and game plans, but tools without temper control create volatility that's expensive in championship seasons. For his long-term upside and potential payday, he'll need to show he's a high-leverage player and a low-maintenance teammate. Steelers now, for the Cowboys coaches and front office, the pick is tactical and cultural. Tactically, they'll prioritize plays that put Pickens in positions to succeed and keep him from isolation snaps where frustration builds if things don't go right. Off the practice field, leadership must thread the needle. Protect a young talent's confidence while setting clear behavioral expectations. That's a management conversation about earning your rope, how much latitude a player gets before consequences accrue. If Dallas wants to avoid the scattershot headlines that followed this moment, the team needs to reinforce standards privately and publicly, show that the culture is non-negotiable, and use accountability as a shield rather than a cudgel. Still curtain. There's also the media and fan dynamic, and it's worth calling out how quickly narratives harden. A single sideline clip becomes a 24/7 storyline, amplified by commentators, former players, and social accounts that monetize outrage. We saw this pattern play out in real time. Hot takes circulate, pundits pick sides, and by Monday, the moment has a dossier of opinion pieces and GIFs. This isn't unique to Pickens. It's the attention economy working exactly as designed. The only antidote is consistent performance and disciplined messaging. If Pickens responds with consistent production and no repeat meltdowns, this clip will become a footnote. If he doesn't, it becomes a chapter in a cautionary biography. TalkSport. Finally, let's be pragmatic about outcomes. One bad sequence doesn't define a career. Plenty of players have seen their reputations bend and then correct over time. The path forward for Pickens is simple in principle. Cultivate emotional control, maximize the hours in the film room, and let performance dilute the optics. For the Cowboys, the choice is between patience and panic. Do you invest more time and resources into development for a physically gifted but emotionally raw receiver? Or do you cut bait when the narrative gets loud? Smart organizations balance both. They protect the player's development while making cultural boundaries plain. This moment matters because it illuminates the fragile marriage between talent and temperament in pro sports. In a league where margins are microscopic, emotional regulation is as much a competitive edge as speed or hands. George Pickens has the physical gifts to alter games. Now he has an opportunity to show that his emotional game is elite too. If he accepts that challenge, the helmet on the ground will be a brief, teachable image. If he doesn't, it will be the first of several pages that turn a promising talent into an organizational headache. The ball is in his hands, literally and figuratively, and how he responds will tell us everything we need to know. SI. You want the hot take? Here it is. 3 games into the season, George Pickens gave Cowboys fans the exact same sideline meltdown Steelers fans have been watching for years, and the optics are brutal. He walked off the field, slammed his helmet hard enough to make everyone stare, and his frustration was obvious. It happened after a drop pass that led to an interception, a play any competitor would be upset about, but context matters. This isn't an isolated snap. Pickens' flare-ups in Pittsburgh were part of the reason he was traded, and now those old headlines are showing up in a new uniform. Talent can buy you patience once. Repeating the behavior in a new locker room tests it. Let's be clear about the football side first. Pickens is immensely talented. Contested catches, contested claiming hands, and real speed after the catch. Even in a limited role, he's produced useful numbers. On paper, Dallas won the trade. They added a dynamic weapon who can stretch defenses and threaten chunk plays. But locker room chemistry isn't on the stat sheet, and good teams keep that stuff tidy. A single outburst can be shrugged off. A pattern? That's where trouble starts. Here's why the Cowboys should be cautious. Signing a mercurial star to a long-term deal is a short path to roster regret. Coaches and front offices prize availability, consistency, and buy-in as much as raw ability. If Pickens keeps turning frustration into public spectacle, slamming gear, theatrical outbursts, public gripe sessions, you'll see tension ripple through the offense. Quarterbacks hate unpredictability. Coordinators hate distractions. Young teammates watch and learn. That combination can erode trust faster than any 2-minute drill can repair it. What can Dallas do? First, set firm boundaries now. Veterans don't need permission slips to act like pros. A closed-door conversation from the head coach or offensive coordinator, backed by clear behavioral expectations, can fix 80% of these issues early. Second, manage reps and role clarity. Give Pickens defined looks and measured targets so he can produce without feeling underused. And third, hold him accountable publicly and privately. Praise the catches, bench the theatrics. Teams that combine structure with empathy usually win both the culture and the games. Is this the end for Pickens in Dallas? Not at all. He's a playmaker. But it's also the tipping point moment every GM fears. Will an elite athlete become a locker room liability? The next few weeks will tell us more than social media ever could. If Pickens learns, tightens up, and turns energy into production, this trade will look brilliant. If he doubles down on temper and theatrics, the Cowboys could be stuck with a headache disguised as a weapon. Bottom line, talent without temperament is a gamble. The Cowboys bought a high upside ticket. Now they need to police the ride. If Pickens wants to be a cornerstone, he'll have to show he can win quietly first, loudly later.